Hello and welcome back to Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas, and this is the second video in the series, and I would like to start off just by saying thank you to everybody who left me messages or sent me emails or text messages about the first video. This I hope was a bit of a wake-up call for you in terms of finding out what is it that you are really ready to change for. I focused in that video on finding out what it is that you want to do differently this year, this Christmas 2016, that you've been unable to do in Christmas 2015 or any of the Christmases before. This is really powerful because what this does is puts context for all of the information that's going to follow in these videos. And if you take the time to really find out what it is that you want to change for, this can be a massive power, a massive force for getting you unstuck. Because I believe that on some level, if you're watching these videos, then you are stuck. You have been unable to make a change in your life that you want to make on a conscious level, but for whatever reason you've been unable to make that change. Now, if you haven't already seen the first video and completed the exercise that I talk about in there, I'd highly recommend that you pause this video and link back to the first video. The link is in the description at the bottom, and that you take the time, you just hold on getting more information from me until you've actually made the time to find out what it is that you're willing to change for. And once you've found out what that is, once you've completed that exercise, you'll find that getting unstuck becomes a much easier process. Now, what I want to talk about today is food and nutrition. So over Christmas and the New Year, we're obviously tempted with lots of really yummy, delicious, but often quite calorific foods. So there's no point in holding back at this time of the year. This is when we give presents to each other which are food-based. We eat meals that are much bigger and much richer and much more calorific than we're used to at any other time of the year. Now, as you may well know, and anybody who knows me knows how much I love my food, so of course part of Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas for me is not about restriction of food. In fact, quite the opposite. It's all about finding out what it is that your body can cope with, finding out what your body can deal with and process, and treating your body with respect, not overloading it like you may have done in other Christmases gone by, but giving it a treat, giving yourself the rest and the time to recharge from the year just gone by, but also respecting your body as a system and as a unique system which will not run at its best if it's overloaded. So I'm a big fan of using car analogies, as I think they really accurately describe what happens when we refuel our bodies, when we put food in and we expect our bodies to run and to serve us as our cars will over the winter and beyond. So what I equate the Christmas break to for a lot of people is actually taking their bodies to the petrol station, the kitchen, and filling up with A, fuel that their body is not designed to run on, and B, overloading the body with that fuel. Now let's say that you put the wrong fuel into your car. Is putting more of that fuel into the car going to make it run any better? Of course not. once you've realized that you've put the wrong fuel in there, hopefully you've got some kind of insurance, hopefully you've got some way of getting help to change the fuel that's in there, put the right fuel in there and go on your way. Now for me, this is a really great metaphor for what happens over Christmas. So often people are putting the wrong fuel into their body and putting excessive amounts of it in there and wondering why when January comes they've gained weight, they feel stressed and their body is not running as it should be. Now on our website I have a questionnaire which can help you identify what fuel that your body is designed to run on. Now in short, there are 3 different metabolic types. There is a protein type, there is a carbohydrate type, and there is a mixed type. And everybody has one of these types. Now, if you haven't done the test already and you're not clear on what your metabolic type is, please go to my website, www.lawrencefrancis.co.uk. Link is in the description below, and redo the test. It's an online assessment. It takes no more than about 5 minutes. I'm going to just take a couple of minutes to give you a really useful definition of what constitutes a fat, what constitutes a carbohydrate, and what constitutes a protein. Now, a protein is something which is essentially an animal or an animal product. So you can also think of this as something which either had a pair of eyes or came from something with a pair of eyes. And this, by definition, includes birds, fish, animals of all description. And their meat or their flesh is going to be primarily protein. So what is also highly protein based is the products of those animals. So if we think about eggs, if we think about milk, if we think about caviar, these things all come from something with a pair of eyes, and so they are going to be highly protein based. The next is the fats. So if you think about taking a walk around your local supermarket, you will know that there is an aisle where all of the fats live. So that's where you'll encounter your sunflower oil, your olive oil, all those oils that are in bottles and are liquid at room temperature. Fats also live in the fridge as well. So if you think about the area where you might encounter the butter or the lard or the dripping, or especially at this time of year, the goose fat. Now these are typically going to be hard at room temperature. Also included in the hard at room temperature group are things like coconut oil and palm oil. Now it might surprise you, but everything else that's not mentioned in either the animals eyes group or the fat group is actually a carbohydrate. And we typically only think of carbohydrates as being bread or rice, and the fact is that the carbohydrate group is actually much bigger than we might initially think. So everything else, so wine, chocolate, vegetables, fruit, breakfast cereals, anything grain based, these things are all going to be largely carbohydrate. Now this is a very simple definition. Obviously there are going to be some exceptions, there are going to be some things which contain a mixture of all of these, but using that definition as a rule of thumb, you will be right most of the time, and you'll be able to look at a particular item either in the supermarket or on your plate, and you'll be able to identify very quickly, is this mainly protein, is this mainly fat, or is this mainly carbohydrate? So one of the key Christmas health tips for carbohydrate types is not to fight against the desire to have quite big meals as you go through Christmas. It's quite normal for carbohydrate types to eat 2 bigger meals per day rather than, say, 4 smaller meals. Now at Christmas, especially on Christmas Day, this is kind of hardwired into your day anyway, where we tend to take our time preparing quite a big and meaty Christmas dinner, and this will be maybe for some people the only time they eat for the day, but certainly it will be the main meal of the 25th of December. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you know that you're going to be eating that Christmas meal at around 3 o'clock, as most people do, your type, as opposed to any other, will do quite well coming to this quite hungry. That's not to say that you should skip breakfast if you really feel like it, but let's just say that you don't feel like having something too heavy in the morning when you wake up, and by sort of 11 o'clock when you've already started cooking the dinner you still don't feel that hungry. Just make sure that you have something in your stomach so that you're not coming to the meal completely running on empty, but this needn't be anything massive. So it might just be something like some toast or some cereal or some porridge, say. Now, one of the advantages of being a carbohydrate type is that you will tend to process and run quite well on things that other types cannot process so well. So things that are higher in sugar, or things that are perhaps seen as more snack-based food, and also things like alcohol, where you are taking in pretty much a pure form of carbohydrate. I'd say this is another really good time to just remind yourself that when you are on a carbohydrate type diet, you are eating a reduced amount of protein than other types, but you are still taking in some protein and some fat. So again, thinking about that percentage of 70% carbohydrate, 20% protein and 10% fat. If your plate looks like that going through Christmas, you're going to be putting in the right fuel for your body type. Now, I don't want you to think of what I've just said as giving you carte blanche to eat whatever you want over Christmas, and that this is not going to have an effect and there won't be a cost to pay. Of course, there always is. Just remember that while you will perform better than the other types on pure forms of carbohydrate, mainly sugars, remember that you do need some fat and some protein in your diet, and that fat and protein both have very important roles to play in maintaining your overall health. In preparation for the next and final video in the Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas video series, I will invite you to go to my website, or to link directly from the description box below through to a stress questionnaire. Now, what this is going to do is tell you whether you are either highly stressed, moderately stressed, or low stressed. So please take 3 minutes, link to the questionnaire from the description box below, or alternatively directly from my website. I'm Lawrence Francis, Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas, and I really look forward to speaking with you next time.